So, welcome, friends. Today is the 13th of September, and it looks like the time flies. It's getting on big time. And today, we're going to be talking about basically the Pali word samadhi, is what we'll talk about today. And that it's a really important word, but it's in such a way, using the word concentration, that it really confuses things. And so I've asked Christina to read a passage out of the Majjhima Nikaya number 117, the Great 40, just the first three paragraphs. Can you read that now?
Yes. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living in Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Anathapindika Park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus: Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir. They replied, the Blessed One said this: Bhikkhus, I shall teach you noble right concentration, with its supports and its requisites. Listen and attend closely to what I shall say. Yes, Venerable Sir, the bhikkhus replied. The Blessed One said this: What, bhikkhus, is noble right concentration, with its supports and its requisites? That is right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, and right mindfulness. Unification of mind equipped with these 7 factors is called noble right concentration, with its supports and its requisites.
Actually, within there, in fact, just the last part, there is actually a definition of the word samadhi, and that was right unification of mind. Can you read that sentence again?
Unification of mind equipped with these 7 factors is called noble right concentration, with its supports and requisites.
So it's interesting that the translator saw the definition of right unification of mind and then immediately uses the word uh, concentration for the word samadhi. Now, how many of you would automatically assume that the word samadhi, or actually the word concentration, means right unification of the mind? Almost always we think of the word concentration as to concentrate something, to push it in. An example of concentration would be concentrated milk or concentrated orange juice, where in that use of the word concentration, you're pulling out things and getting down to just the essence. And that we see that in regular, let us say, Western practice of meditation, where they use words like deep, going deep into meditation. How many of you have heard that expression, deep meditation? All right, which means that they're removing the shallow part, trying to get down to the roots. And guess what? A tree is not its roots. That the better part of the tree is, in fact, that's which is available. And so when people think about going into deep meditation, they're kind of missing the point. That the word samadhi doesn't mean deep or cutting things off at the surface so that you can get down to something that's important. That what we really need to look into is that this word samadhi, sama area samadhi, is in fact what the Buddha teaches in its own word. So you've heard it said, like in Sutta number 22, that the Buddha only teaches one thing, and that is dukkha, dukkha nirodha. Both formerly and now, I teach only one thing, and that is dukkha, dukkha nirodha, which means then that we see the dukkha and we remove the dukkha so that we get a state of dukkha nirodha. And what that means is that we can see when the mind is scattered, when the mind is off topic, when the mind is polluted, then we're going to bring the mind into a state of samadhi, which means that we're going to bring things together. Now, this is actually a place where many people then start looking at words like uh, uh, duality and unity. That it's actually the mind that becomes unified rather than scattered or broken down into various aspects. Eric Berne actually had a very good way of looking at the mind. He got that actually from Sigmund Freud, but Sigmund Freud's language was difficult to understand when he would use the words id, ego, and superego. In fact, his word ego has been completely misused. An example of that is the word egotistical is often a word used for putting things down, to where Eric Berne used the word adult for the ego, and that the id is the child. And so when we say someone is egotistical, what that actually means is one is acting childish, and things are all confused. But Eric Berne had a better way of looking at it so that people don't get confused by using the term parent, adult, and child. Now, the parent ego state is what the Buddha would call um, rites, rules, rituals, procedures, ways of doing things, shoulds, woulds, coulds, um, idealism, and conceptualizations. Now, often a human being who is untrained, an ordinary person, will have one thought followed by another thought that contradicts that first thought, and then have another thought that contradicts that one. And so they go around and around and around from one contradiction to another. We can call that state worry. Let us say that they're worried about money, and so they'll have 10 different kinds of thoughts about how to get money. Some of them are wholesome, some of them are not wholesome. And that the right way would be to have a unified kind of mindset so that we don't worry, we don't spin around and go around looking for let us say solutions to the problem, but rather just recognize there's no problem. So this sutta is actually a most important sutta because of that one paragraph that the Buddha says, I'm going to teach you right unification of mind. Getting your mind together would be a way of saying it. Another way of saying it would be cleaning the mind, getting all the gunk out. Now, some people would say, aha, but that means that you're concentrating the mind because you're taking the gunk out. Well, the gunk actually never belonged in there anyway, so that's not the mind. We're not cleaning the mind when we're cleaning the mind, which means that we're making the mind itself pure mind rather than concentrating the mind, because generally when people concentrate the mind, they pack the dirt in with it, not recognizing that they're trying to do something that is not what the Buddha teaches. Now, he also talks about it. The words that were used were supports and requisites. Is that the phrase that's used in that sutta? A better uh, uh, way of thinking about it is supports and features. So we have supports in the sense that there are things that we can do to support bringing on the samadhi mind. And then once we have that, there are features. And so we can say then that the Eightfold Noble Path can be broken into 3 different groups, which are different than the groups that are in the suttas. Now, what we're talking about here is the Eightfold Noble Path that has 4 features that when we bring these 4 features together, it brings about right unification of mind. And when we have right unification of mind, it has 3 features. And those 3 features all have to do with sila. Now, in Sutra number 44 and in other places, the Eightfold Noble Path is introduced as Sila, Samadhi, Panya. But in this sutta, and in you could say in the noble way of looking at the Eightfold Noble Path, the Noble Path is actually Panya, Samadhi, Sila. So the first 4 items would be the panya, and then we would have that samadhi factor, and then because the mind is now collected and unified and pure, we would have then sila. Now, what we mean by sila, actually, another word for it would be morality. In fact, there's a huge number of ways of looking at morality. Most people look at morality as a set of rules. You should do this and you shouldn't do that. But here we're talking about the way that the mind would work in the sense of after it is already purified, then the sila is a result or it's a feature. It's not a support, but rather it's a feature of the unified mind. But ordinary, let us say beginner, or we can divide it into actually 2 different ways of looking at the entire Buddhist practice. And that is that there is a a gradual, a slow path, a gradual path where people are gradually, slowly making progress. And then there is the noble path of having the mind become noble immediately and then staying there. So this is the direct path. And the Buddha taught a direct path. And yet, Buddhism and many places you will find, even in some Buddhist monasteries, they still practice a slow, gradual path. And that slow, gradual path almost always starts with sila. You got to behave yourself at this wat before we're going to teach you anything, is normally the way that it's done. We can also say that sila is what, in especially Thailand, but you can see this in actually all the religions, to where the main job of both the parents and the religion is to teach the children how to behave themselves. And the primary way that students children are taught how to behave themselves is by scaring the dickens out of them. Okay, what does that mean? Well, in Christianity and in Islam, they scare the dickens out of the kids by 2 ways. One is punishment, and the other one is threatening that when when they're dead, there'll be more punishment. That's the hell. and that the right way of seeing it is, in fact, that the hell is the dukkha, the suffering, the hotness that the child creates in his mind through desire. He grows up doing that, and people continue to make a hell of a mess out of their life. That's the real hell. The real hell is the mind that is scattered. And heaven then would be the mind that is unified. So this is actually what we're talking about, is the entire teachings of the Buddha now can be condensed, if you can use that word, condensed or concentrated, down to just one word. And that word is Samadhi. But the Buddha used three words: dukkha, dukkha nirodha. Another way that you could have it down would be don't worry, be happy. That's four words that encapsulates the entire teachings of the Buddha. Never mind, start again. That's another four-word use for it. That never mind the past, never mind the unwholesome, never mind that the mind has wandered away, never mind that the mind was not unified, just start again and bring it back into a state of unity. This is an easy practice. It's easy to understand. It's easy enough to at least understand it intellectually. But a lot of people say that, well, now that I understand it intellectually, it should come automatically. And the answer to that is no, that the mind, in fact, needs to be trained. You've seen, in fact, dogs that have been trained. You see them in armed services and police dogs, but you also see, at least years ago in the vaudeville, they would a trainer which put on a show where he had 5 or 6 dogs that were trained to catch frisbees, trained to open doors, trained to ride bicycles, and all of that kind of stuff. And in the intellectual educational system that we have most throughout the world is where the adults train the children to do things, to remember things, but they never train the child or give the child the ability to train his own mind into this state of unification. That in fact, most of the education systems train the mind to be scattered. The way that they do that is by teaching, for instance, history, which is mostly just scattered old stories. More and more people find out that what they were taught in school about history didn't happen at all. That history books, in fact, is the story that somebody told who survived. They don't have the stories of the people who didn't survive. They only have the stories of the survivors or the winners of the battle, and they don't get the whole story. They don't get a unified story that happened with everything. They only get a bit and a piece here, all chopped up. And so we are taught from childhood to be scatterbrained. You can see that in the school schedule, where the first hour the kids learn history. Then the second hour they go and they learn Spanish. And then they go into the third one and they'll learn arithmetic. And then they'll go to the fourth and do something else, keeping the mind jumping and bumping around rather than training the child to do one thing. And so if we could begin now to train our own minds to come out of that bouncing around and jumping around and get it to settle down into just one thing. And that one thing, then we could use the example that the Buddha gave, is to have wholesome thoughts. to get the mind into a state of wholesomeness. That in fact, this is actually part of the sutta. The first part, by the way, that is the introduction, and then the next one is the part where he says that right view is first. We have to be able to look and to see, because if we can look and we see, we can change. And so right view is number one on the list. That's really funny that the Buddha says that right noble view comes first, and yet what does Buddhist countries and Christian countries teach? They teach the child sila first. You got to behave yourself. Sit down, Johnny, and I'll teach you. But you got to sit down and shut up. That's the way that we were taught. Sila comes first, to where in the teaching of the Buddha, it's actually right noble view comes first. Now, we have to understand that there are three different kinds of views. One would be a nihilistic view, where people think that they can get away with everything because there's no authority, there's no mommy, no daddy, no religious figures, no this world and another world. We just have it where the child thinks that he can get away with anything. And so mommy comes by, or daddy or Uncle Joe comes by and says, if you do that, we're going to put you in punishment. We're going to put you in the corner. And then the next comes by and it says, if you keep doing that, we're going to send you to hell. So we try to get sila going. We try to teach the child to behave themselves with the understanding that the child is not really smart enough or not really wise enough to see that good behavior gets good results and bad behavior gets bad results. So that whole point is shoved down the child's throat. So everybody here has been raised on that perspective: is if you do good, you get good results, and if you do bad, you get bad results. And that's a duality. That's making the child's mind scattered. But if we could teach right noble view first, then I think that society would not have so many scatterbrained people in it. So, what do we mean by right noble view? But let's talk about the other kind of ordinary right view. We have wrong view is a nihilist view. Right ordinary view is actually the opposite of that, which would be considered eternalism or everythingism, and it can be expressed by, oh no, you can't. So the nihilistic view is, oh, I can do anything and get away with it. I can get away with anything. And the eternalist view is, oh no, you can't. We're going to have cops. We're going to have armies. We're going to have teachers. We're going with, by the way, sticks. We're going to have all this stuff. And if that don't work, we're going to bring a priest in to send you to hell. We're going to do any and everything to get you to do what you're told to do. And the child is there saying, I'm going to do what I want to do. So these are the two kinds of views that the Buddha talks about. Ordinary wrong, well, actually is ordinary wrong view, nihilistic view, and then ordinary right view. But these 2 points of view are actually just that. They're ideas, they're points of view, they're concepts, they're ways of thinking. But right noble view, in fact, is not the word view at all. It's right noble viewing. It's a verb, not a noun. And what we mean by that is that we have to look right now. It's not about what we thought before, and we keep thinking that because we've gotten the habit of thinking it. So children begin to think a certain way, and as they grow up, they continue to think in that particular way, which brings on worldviews, points of view, etc. And the Buddha says, don't fall into the trap of figuring out and then keeping track, or let us say coming to a conclusion. Now, that's an important, very important point, because if you ever come to a conclusion about something, that actually may change, and now you're back into duality because your conclusion is not what's real anymore. So the Buddha recommends don't come to a conclusion. Don't ever come to a conclusion. You keep coming back to looking, because things are always changing. So this is an important point about right noble viewing, is keep looking and keep looking and keep looking. Because if we're actually looking, then that will bring us about into the unified or unification of mind. But if we have a viewpoint, then that's going to keep us disjointed and scattered. Now, there's an interesting way of looking at this, and that is that ordinary right view is actually learned behavior in the sense of doing what you were told to do. So that telling, this is right, that's wrong. This, in fact, is where the sila comes from. This is where morality comes from, is being told what the rules are, and that you got to abide by the rules. But the child wants to rebel against the rules. Everybody here, when they can remember as a child, they wanted to do what they wanted to do. And that your whole point about growing up or becoming civilized was to stop doing what you want to do and start doing what you were told to do. Is that true, Christina, for you? Your whole life comes from you want to do this, but you're told to do that. And the kid says, well, I can get away with it anyway. And so right ordinary view is sila, or the parent ego state, and ordinary wrong view then is the child state, and that right noble viewing is actually the adult state, according to the way that Eric Berne would point it out to be. To keep looking at reality, looking to see how things actually are. Now, then the Buddha brings in two new parts of the Eightfold Noble Path, and that is what is called sati. Now, sati actually does not translate into the word mindfulness, which is normally how it's translated, because mindfulness, that's kind of a made-up word. Nobody really knows what it means. Now, I remember as a child learning a statement like, mind your P's and Q's, because Q's and P's are backwards from each other. I guess you could say, mind your K's and R's, because kids get those backwards too. But the point is that sati actually means to remember, to come into the present moment. It doesn't mean to remember things that happened in the past. It doesn't mean to remember your dreams. That's not the kind of memory that we're talking about. But sati actually means to wake up, to be in the present moment, to see, because if you're not in the present moment, then you can't look. You can't look, you can't be looking at stuff unless you're remembering to look. And then the Buddha brought in the next point, which was right noble effort. And that effort is to make a change. Then he says is that right noble, that these three things run and circle around each other. Sati, to remember to look, then to do the looking, and then make a change. These are the three things that are the basis for the Eightfold Noble Path. And if one can remember to look and to change, we've got almost all the features of the Samadhi mind already there. And then he brings in one more point, and the Pali for that one is Samasankappa. And Samasankappa is sometimes referred to as intention or thought, but a better definition would be your attitude. Now, as we develop the attitude, we've developed it from the attitude of being a victim. For instance, a child sees himself as a victim to the world. Mom's big, she'll slap me around. I got to do what I'm told to do. I can't do what I want to do. I have to do what I'm told to do. So, that whole point then is that the child grows up with the attitude of being a victim. In fact, we start off as victims. A tender infant is certainly a victim. Can't he feed himself? Can't move his hands, can't walk, can't go to war, can't do all kinds of things. The victim mentality is the beginning point. And then as we grow up as children, because of all of the rules that are set up for us, we begin to get the idea that victimhood is the way to live. We get to win a game occasionally, and we feel good when we do win, but we still have that mentality of being a victim, that winning one game is not enough. We feel good for a moment, and then we got to go win another game in order to feel good, because we don't have a real attitude. We have an attitude of being a victim. So as we start to practice this three-fold feature of the Eightfold Noble Path, that change model actually start by changing our thoughts, but very soon by changing our thoughts from an unwholesome thought to a wholesome thought, brings us to the state of gladdening the mind, brightening the mind, and that brightening and gladdening the mind then begins to change the attitude from a loser, from a victim, into being a winner. And so one of the qualities of the Samasankappa is called Shraddha. That's the Sanskrit. Another word would be Sada, which is the Pali word. And this word is generally translated as the word faith. Well, the word faith has actually been quite polluted in the English language by the Christians. The Christians have the word faith as meaning that you've got to do it without any evidence at all. You got to do what you were told to do without having any evidence at all. To where the word sada is much more like the word confidence, in the sense that we do have evidence. An example of that is in the time of the Buddha, the bhikkhus around him had evidence by seeing the Buddha himself. Also, throughout all of history, we've had, let us say, a lineage of good monks who could teach other monks through example. That if someone has that winner's attitude, then the student can see that winner's attitude and say, I can become a winner also. So it's through confidence then that we're practicing more and more those three things of remembering to look at what's going on and to change. Look and change. Remember to look and change. And we do that over and over again. And as we do, we begin to gain confidence. We don't have faith in the practice anymore. We've got results. And that results then is the confidence that I can do it. And that's what changes the attitude to that, wow, I could do this. Wow, everything really is okay. Wow, I am on top of the game. Well, I am on top of my world. This kind of attitude then is what is the culmination. So we have now uh, right noble sati, to remember to be in the present moment so that we can have right noble viewing. And then we have the right noble effort to make a change, which brings about the right noble attitude. And when these four things come together, that's what brings about the right samadhi. The mind becomes unified and whole because it's no longer in a war between what it should be and what you want. Now you can really see the way things are, and you're quite satisfied with that. So let's take a moment. Christina, does this give you the idea of what we're meaning here about what does concentration mean? It's not really concentration, it's the unification of the mind that the Buddha was talking about.
Yeah, it makes sense. And specifically to start with viewing, and having that be the starting point, and then
Mhm.
having that coming back to being able to discern if it's how you're viewing. If,
Right. Okay. So we
yeah.
can look at it like this, or we can talk about it like this, and that is that sati is almost instant. It's almost instant just to wake up, just to know. And then we take quite a long time to look, to investigate, take some time to really see what's going on. That in fact, you've heard of the term first impression. Most people live their lives according to first impressions. They'll have a first impression, they'll see something, they'll make a decision about it, they'll come up with a concept about it, and then they'll hold that concept, they'll hold that conclusion, and they don't look anymore. That what this really is all about, right noble viewing, that's why it comes first, because that's the important thing, is to keep remembering to look and to look and to look and to look and to look. Keep looking. This is what the practice of meditation, if you could use that word, then in fact I'm reluctant to use the word meditation, because almost always it has nothing to do with the looking. Even the noting that the Vipassana people do is not the kind of looking that we're talking about, because the kind of looking that we're talking about is looking for not just what is there, but also to see if what is there is unwholesome. So we bring discrimination into this. So part of the looking has to do with discrimination, to be able to discriminate with, is this thought worth having or not? And if we have that discrimination that this thought is not worth having, oh, I feel bad, oh, I hurt, oh, this or that, are all kinds of unwholesome thoughts. And we can then make the right to noble effort to change that into everything is all right. That in fact, the reason why people will feel bad is mostly because it's just an old habit of feeling bad. Well, why did we develop a feeling of feeling bad? The answer to that is it's the way that we were trained. Bringing that duality of, if you don't do what you're told to do, we're going to beat the shit out of you, and then we're going to send you to hell. And so there's that element of fear that's brought in. And people have that feeling of fear, the feeling of, oh, poor me, the feeling of sadness, etc., like this. And so what we're actually practicing then is to be able to see that fear, to see that everything, in fact, is okay, so that we can change that feeling of fear into feeling of safety and security. Because in fact, right now, everybody here is safe. No one here is in danger, probably because you were wise enough already to get yourself out of danger by doing what you were told to do. So now that you're already safe, let's start feeling safe rather than being afraid of making a mistake. You've survived already. You're already here now. Isn't that marvelous? You made it. Here you are. Can't we celebrate that? Be happy that we have made it and here we are. That's the reality of the situation. So let's bring some lightness, bring some joy in. And how do we do that? That's the right noble effort to brighten the mind, to gladden the mind, to bring about the attitude of, hey, we've made it. We're still alive. We didn't get beaten. We didn't get shoved into the closet. We didn't get sent to hell. Here we are. The only hell that I've got is the hell that I've made for myself. That's
I have
the whole practice of the Eightfold Noble Path right there, is to remember to look and to see what's going on. Remember to wake up and to see. And by seeing, we have the ability to make changes. And that change then brings about this gladness of mind, this gladness of heart, this attitude that we can do things. And that's four things together brings about Samadhi. It's right there in the sutta. If you can look and read this sutta that we're talking about, you can see that that's what the Buddha is talking about. Now, let's talk about the features.
Mm.
The features are that if the mind is safe and secure and satisfied and comfortable, if the mind is satisfied and comfortable, there's no reason to go hurt someone. Now, why would we even have to have precepts or sila? Why do we even start teaching kids, oh, don't hurt each other? Instead, we could teach the children, look at how you feel and change your feeling. And when you change your feeling from feeling hurt and wanting to take revenge into feeling safe and secure, when we feel safe and secure, we don't have to take revenge. We don't have to protect ourselves when there's no danger. And so we teach our children upside down. We teach them backwards. We teach them sila first, and that's the problem. So we need to come out of that habit of looking at what's right and what's wrong, and coming out of our concepts about we know what's right and what's wrong, and start remembering to look at how things actually are. And when we look and see how things actually are, we can recognize that the world, in fact, is great. The only problem is my attitude about the world. And if I change my attitude about the world, then I can come in line with the world. I can come in line with reality. And now everything is unified. The mind is unified. Reality is unified. Everything is there. That the duality came from my attitude about sila. So once we have the mind that is free from fear, free from want, then why would you steal anything? You don't want anything, so you're unlikely to steal it. You're unlikely to lie unless you're afraid of getting caught doing something wrong. But the Buddha teaches that real sila comes from the mind that is already feeling safe, secure, comfortable, and happy. And then our behavior is in line with reality. This is what the Eightfold Noble Path is really all about. And it really requires that feeling of confidence that you're already okay. Everything is good enough. No problems, no worries, mate. That all of these worries and all of these problems came to us in the form of the instructions that we got from older people who had already been messed up in their childhood. And so we perpetuate this stuff one generation after another, after another, after another. Everybody's miserable and they make their children miserable, and down it goes. But if we can learn to to treat our own inner child with happiness, with joy, with nurturing, then we can begin to teach our own offspring, our children, how to be happy and joyful. And maybe we can turn this society around one family at a time. But it hasn't happened yet. Why is that? Is because people may understand this, they may know this, but they don't like it when something happens. There's a story about this, by the way, and that is that the old man and his wife went to church every Sunday, and one time there was a time for sharing, and this old man got up and told the congregation at church, "I really love children." Didn't have any, but he really loved children. And then after service, they got home, and he had just poured some cement on Saturday, and now he comes back on Sunday and he sees the footprints of children in his newly laid concrete. And he got really angry and he said, "I'm going to get those kids." And his wife said, "Wait a minute. Didn't you just this morning in church say that you love children?" And he says, "Yes, I do love children in the abstract, but not in my concrete." So that's what we have, is we have this intellectual attitude. We have in the abstract, we should treat children kindly, but when they're in the concrete, that's when we want to raise hell and teach them about hell and give them some hell and make them feel bad so that they'll stay out of my concrete. Now, here's a question for you. That concrete sets and those footprints are there, but that happens also with the children's mind. The hell that you gave them because of their footprints gets set in. And so that's what's happened. We've got these footprints of hell, these footprints of you're a bad person because you didn't do what you were told to do, and it's set in the concrete of your mind, into your attitudes, into your concepts, into your conclusions about what the world is. The world is bad now because the world was bad to me when I was 3 years old. But if we start to look closely and carefully, we can see that all these old concepts about the world is bad is actually just an old childhood memory that we carry around, and that we can come out of that into the bright joy that right now everything is okay. So let's begin then to practice to remember to be here now so that you can see, in fact, that everything really is okay. And when it's not, we can change the mind, not try to change the world, because the world's already all right. The only problem with the world is we have all of these other people who think that the world is not okay. But that's their individual issue, not yours. Your job is to clean out your own mind, to bring that back to the unification to where you're in line with the reality of the situation. And right now, your reality is everything is fine, everything is okay. And if everything is fine and everything is okay, then there's no reason to go try to hurt somebody to fix it, because it's already all right. This is how the Eightfold Noble Path really works, to bring one out of their suffering, out of their hell, into the joy that they could have. Now, it's very interesting that hell is always a mental state. It's never actually a real place. It's only an attitude. The story is that standing on the street corner, a Christian and an atheist were arguing. They were arguing about the existence of hell. And the atheist came by and says, "There ain't no hell." And the Christian says, "The hell there ain't." Well, just then a Buddhist happened to walk by, and he casually mentioned, "Hell, you're both in it right now. Your attitude is in hell. Both the atheist and the Christian are in hell. But the Buddhist who has the right view can see that hell is actually a mental state. It's not real, that we're not being punished anymore, that was what was happening when we were children, but we're not being punished anymore. We don't have authorities to punish us. And why is that? Because our mind is noble. And because our mind is noble, we're not out there hurting anyone. And so we're safe. We're safe because we can see. This is the actual teachings of the Buddha. This is the Eightfold Noble Path. But most people don't understand it like that because they start with Sila Samadhi Panya, to where the real noble practice is starting with these elements of remembering to look and to see and to change, and to not only change our mind, but begin to change our attitude and our feeling so that we become unified. And with that unification of mind, that samadhi mind, then our sila is automatic, because we're not hurting anyone, because we don't want anything. This is the Eightfold Noble Path. It's been working for 2,500 years, and I'm surprised that so few actually understand how to practice correctly. So, Paul, what do you think?
Um, at times it feels like right effort is quite underrated because there is more discourse about other aspects than right effort.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. Can you go into
I
that?
was saying, I was saying right effort seems underrated. Like I've heard more discourse about the three sila aspects rather than right effort.
Right. They misapply the right effort to behave yourself rather than the right effort to see what's in the mind and change. So they take that right effort and put it on the outside rather than placing it on the inside where it belongs. That's a good point.
Yes.
So, Samantha, good to see you again, friend. You're lucky today. Do you have something to say?
What? Not really. Good to see you.
So you're ready to practice, huh? Ready to have that samadhi mind. So, Karwan, what do you think?
Dhammarato, unified. I'm good. Not really much to say. Yeah, just practicing.
Yeah. Atamayata. Aha, I see that
Dhammarato,
unwholesome thought.
yeah,
I see that.
I like that. Yeah.
So, Nabid, what do you have to say?
Hello, Dhammarato. Yeah, it hit me hard because I have three kids, you know.
Treat them well. Let them play.
Well, I want to be honest, you know. I mean, maybe I'm treating him like that old man, you know. I love them, but sometimes I'm screaming at them.
Well, remember
So,
that you're screaming at them not because of what they're done. You're screaming at them because that's your old habit.
yes, I realized this afterwards. But yeah, I was good today. So I'm getting there. I'm looking as it happens.
Excellent. Excellent. So, Willie, what do you have to say?
There we go. Okay. Yeah, I have. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I have two grandkids, and they're close in age, about a year apart. And I tell you what, they couldn't be more different. And so what you're saying, and they've been raised identically. And I mean, what you're saying doesn't have any personality, and there it is. Just one of them is just well behaved, and one of them is just out there. I mean, out there, just crazy. And so if you're raising two young kids the same way, why are they so different? Is this just personality, or but the other thing you said about just going into it, the three concepts with your eyes open sounds like, and but anyway, that was but that's my only thought right there.
There is a Zen story about in fact, I have several stories about this, but the Zen story is that the young monk was caught stealing. The other monks grabbed what he had stolen and grabbed him by the of his robe and hauled him in front of the teacher and complained about him. And the teacher says, "Well, what is it that he stole?" It was some article of, I don't know. And so the teacher gave the item to the accused thief right in front of the other kids or the other monks. And they started to complain. "Why did you do that? He did wrong." And the teacher says, "Oh, but he didn't steal it. I just gave it to him as a gift." And that student, because that episode wound up becoming one of the best students of the Dhamma, was because he was forgiven and treated well. So, in that regard, you can take that about your grandkids while I tell a second story. And the second story is about Gurdjieff. Not sure if anybody here has heard about Gurdjieff. There was a movie done in the early 1970s about him called Meetings with Remarkable Men. He had an institute in Paris that was a great big kind of a mansion with a great big yard. And that the yard keeper was grumpy. And all of the other students there said, "Why don't you get rid of that grumpy gardener?" And Gurdjieff says, "I want him to be here for a training tool for you." And so he rewarded the grumpy gardener. Okay. So, with that kind of mentality, maybe if you start treating your grandchild, who everybody else is treating miserably because he behaves miserably, if you start treating him well and treat him like he's the favorite kid in the world for you, he may, in fact, respond to that.
Okay, worth a shot.
Yeah, start treating him well. He's probably responding to all the abuse that he's already been given.
Okay, yeah, all right. I can see that viewpoint, and I'll let you know.
All right, I'd like to hear about that. So, Ivan, what do you have to say?
Nothing. Just happy. Yeah.
All
Dhammarato, I
right.
have a question too.
Yes, go ahead, RJ.
So very good, thoughts on how to handle kids, and I'm gonna apply those more and more. But I would like to sort of get some more specific advice also. Like, so let's say there are situations when we treat them bad. For example, they need to go to school and they're getting late, but then instead of getting ready, they start doing something else. and we have to maybe, let's say, continuously watch them for them to do that thing. And when they're
So
not doing, we
they
get
don't want to go
angry.
to school, and
Yeah,
so they're reluctant to go to school. And
yeah,
then you come down on them hard because they don't want to go to school, and so you give them hell for it. Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So maybe the change of attitude is to start teaching them about, I hope you enjoy school today. What is it
Hmm.
about school that you really like? Go do some of that. If kids enjoy school, they'll learn more. If they hate it, they'll resist it.
Yeah,
All right. So begin to help your kids. That's one of the things that I say to my daughter when she goes to school, if I'm up by then, is to enjoy today. Enjoy your friends. Have fun at school. I don't ever talk about her making bad grades. And in fact, nowadays, Mom and Kitty come and show me her drawings and her good grades because she's actually enjoying what she's doing.
yeah. I guess at
Yes.
school also they get things that they don't like. Like at school, the teachers might put pressure that you need to get good grades and all. So they might still not completely like it. And there are other situations when, let's say, we are in a hurry, but they are not, doing it fast enough, things like that. So in those situations, things like that happen that we get angry, maybe.
Well, it's a kind of a cycle. This is part of the samsara cycle. Let's put this together in the sense that the kid doesn't like school. So he doesn't
Yeah,
do what the teacher wants him to do because he doesn't like it. The teacher doesn't like that the child is misbehaving, so the teacher will find something to fuss at, and what they'll fuss at is about the grades.
yeah,
Okay? So, if you can help your child to understand the best thing to do at school is to not only be happy and enjoy the rest of the kids there, but also make friends with that grumpy teacher. Start
yeah,
treating the teacher really, really well. And if she likes you kid, if she likes the kid, she's not going to complain about his grades. So the teacher's
yeah,
creating her own hell, and the kids are creating their own hell, and you're watching by the side and you're creating your own hell about it.
yeah. And also, like they get these phones and like YouTube videos, so they're getting addicted to it, and that's also interfering with other things that they probably still want to do, but that they get engrossed in these screens.
Because the advertisers and everybody else knows that YouTubes will treat the children who are watching the YouTube well. And so the kids get addicted to the cell phone because the cell phone doesn't slap them and tell them, you've got to go do your homework.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they like the cell phone because the cell phone is not critical to them.
Yeah,
So
that answers
the
it.
other
Yeah,
way of doing it is to ask them about their homework. Don't tell them that they've got to do homework, but ask them, do they enjoy doing their homework? Are you having fun with your homework?
yeah,
If they're having fun at their homework, then they'll have fun doing that because daddy's not critical of the homework, so they can enjoy doing it. But if dad becomes critical of the homework, then they don't want to do it.
yeah,
This is just simple psychology.
yeah,
And so help them to enjoy what they're doing. Don't tell them, oh, you got to put the cell phone down. That means that you're creating the hell out of their heaven, the cell phone.
mm,
So don't tell them that they can't use the cell phone. Instead, do it in a joyful, happy way.
Yeah.
And when you're happy around the kids, they'll be more happy. They'll respond to that.
Yeah.
Just like the monks around the Buddha, they responded to his joy. They responded to his knowledge. And here you are treating your kids like hell, and guess what? That's how they respond to you. So they're doing just what you would do. They're just like you.
Now, how much value does this point have that, let's say somebody's 10 years old, so we didn't treat them well for 10 years and we change now. So we worry that, we
It's a
didn't do
whole lot
well.
better to change when they're 10 years old than to continue to be a grumpy old man until their 40s.
Hmm.
Now is the time to change. Now. That's what the Buddha is teaching. Do it now. Never mind about what's happened before. Never mind what's happened in the past. Let's do it now. Let's start again doing it correctly.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Ben, what do you have to say?
Everything is good, Dhammarato. But I'm not in hell right now. Right here's perfectly hunky-dory.
Yeah, create your own heaven out of the hell that you've been making.
Yeah, that's the way.
All right. So anybody else got anything to say?
I have just a final thought.
Yes, go ahead.
So the past couple of weeks, my daughter's been trying out for the volleyball team at school, and around here, it's like very competitive. And
Trying out for what?
volleyball.
The Bible.
Volleyball.
Volleyball. Okay.
Yeah. That would be an interesting sport, the Bible. No, volleyball.
Volleyball. Okay.
And so
Yes.
she texted me today from school, and she did not make the team. And so
Wow, that's wonderful.
that's what I said. I wrote good. And I said, so now you can
Now you
enjoy
can be
playing
happy. If you stay on
volleyball
that
and not.
volleyball team, you'll continue with that heavy-duty competition.
Yeah. And I think that helped her when she came home. I think she felt better. It wasn't a matter of disappointing me or herself or whatever. It was just like, good. Now you can just play
What
for
a
fun.
relief it is. I failed that volleyball team. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yeah, exactly. So that was good.
Being the very best at something is a kind of hell all of its own. Wanting to be the very best at something is even more of a hell. So failing at being the very best at something, and wow, what a relief. Can give that up. All right. Anybody else got something? Good. Mr. Cock. Mr. Mikey, the big rooster. Stop roosting and come and cackle to us.
Happily. Yeah, glad to see friends here today, joining the call. What a nice topic. Yeah, keep on joining these calls, keep on joining the hangouts, and keep on doing one-on-one calls with each other. It's a great joy to chat Dhamma with one another. And yeah, if you're listening on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes, maybe you've been listening for a long time. I've heard of some people, they'll listen to these videos for years before joining. Well, there's no need to wait. You can come join us now. So click the link in the YouTube description, join us here on the Dhamma Friends Discord, and you can hang out here with us on the Hangout channel as well. We enjoy making noble friends here. So yeah, thanks friends, and take care.
Yes, practice well. Don't worry. Practice, don't worry. Practice, be happy. Thank you all. Oh, and by the way, you guys can stay on the call after I go, and you can enjoy each other's company. I'm sure Willie and CV and RJ have more to discuss about their kids. So, thank you all. See you later.
See you.
Thank you.